A generation has watched Selena Quintanilla's star rise and eclipse every expectation, only to crash into tragedy 30 years ago. Today, the world braces for a revelation that promises to reshape her legacy. Chris Perez, her widower and lead guitarist of the band she fronted, has chosen this moment, 3 decades after her untimely death, to break his silence. In an exclusive sit-down interview, Perez has pledged to address rumors, share untold moments, and confront painful memories that have haunted him since that spring night in 1995. The question on everyone's lips: what could he possibly say now that the world doesn't already know? Rewind to December 1991, when a 16-year-old electric performer from Corpus Christi met a 22-year-old guitarist whose riffs set dance floors alight. Their courtship defied convention. Selena was managed by her father Abraham's strict hand, and a romance was forbidden. The two snuck handwritten notes between practice sessions, whispered promises under stage lights, and plotted secret rendezvous in motel rooms after late rehearsals. When Selena finally confessed her love, her family erupted in fury. Abraham suspended Chris from the band, threatening to replace him if a relationship continued. Yet their bond proved stronger than fear. 3 years later, under a private moonlit arbor in California, they married in a ceremony attended by bandmates and a handful of trusted friends. The world cheered the union of La Reina del Tex-Mex with her rock star soulmate. Few guessed the vows masked a lifetime of hidden pain. In the aftermath of Selena's murder in March 1995, Perez retreated into a self-imposed exile. He watched interviews of her final performances until tears blurred every lyric, then discarded every photograph in his apartment. For years, he refused to speak her name in public. When pressed by tabloids, he offered cryptic responses. "Ella vive en me," he'd whisper, tears in his eyes. He channeled grief into music, forming the Chris Perez Band in 1999, where he poured heartbreak into guitar solos that wept and wailed. Fans sensed the sorrow behind each chord, yet the man himself remained largely invisible, a ghost of the bando negro who once rocked alongside his bride. Now, 3 decades on, Perez claims a tipping point has arrived. In teaser clips from an upcoming memoir and documentary, he sits in the same living room where Selena planned concerts, her handwritten set lists pinned behind him. His voice trembles as he recounts the tension between honoring her memory and forging his own path. He hints at a moment of betrayal, one he never spoke of before, when a close confidant allegedly leaked private letters Selena wrote to him. He promises to name names, to unveil the identity of a betrayer whose indiscretion reopened a wound he thought had scarred over long ago. More shocking still, Perez alludes to undisclosed conversations with a high-profile music executive who purportedly offered him a deal contingent on public temperature. According to Perez, he was pressured to maintain a narrative that portrayed him as a stoic widower rather than an artist grappling with a lifetime of loss. They wanted a legend, not a man, he confesses in one quick cut. If true, this revelation could expose the machinery of fame that commodifies tragedy, turning Selena's life and death into a marketable brand at the expense of her surviving family's healing. Close friends of Selena's family, speaking anonymously to insiders, suggest Perez's silence was also enforced by legal settlements and non-disclosure agreements. Behind the scenes, attorneys guarded details of the criminal trial and family disputes so fiercely that few details ever left the courtroom. Today, Perez plans to reveal the clauses that bound him, the financial arrangements he made to protect Selena's estate, and the hidden toll those legal battles extracted. It's a promise to lift a veil that's obscured the full reality of what unspools when grief collides with commerce and control. As the preview montage ends, the camera lingers on Perez's hands, scarred from decades of guitar strings, trembling slightly as he closes the book on 3 decades of silence. The final title card flashes, Selena's voice lives on, the Chris Perez story. No release date is given. Instead, viewers are urged to subscribe and stay tuned. Overnight, search queries for Chris Perez interview, Selena's secret letters, and music executive betrayal skyrocket. Social platforms brim with fans speculating. Who betrayed Selena's trust? Which executive colluded in controlling her legacy? And what hidden truths will Perez unveil that might rewrite the history of Tejano music's brightest queen? In the days after that teary-eyed trailer premiered, the world held its breath for Chris Perez's full story. Social media feeds flooded with speculation. Had he been silenced by Selena's family in the aftermath of her death? Was there truth to the rumor that letters she'd penned in her final weeks revealed doubts about their marriage? And who was the mysterious confidant he accused of betrayal? Every journalist chased the angles. Legal experts dissected the possibility of non-disclosure clauses, while music historians pored over archival interviews for hints of unspoken conflict. The buzz grew so intense that music executives felt compelled to clarify Perez's claims. A spokesperson for Q Productions, the company founded by Selena's father, issued a brief statement. "We respect Chris's right to speak, but Selena's legacy stands on her artistry and spirit, unaltered by time." The response only fueled curiosity. Why refuse comment if there was nothing to hide? Meanwhile, Perez granted a rare sit-down to a veteran music journalist. Under a single studio light, he shared the first piece of his story. How? In the weeks after Selena's murder, he discovered sealed letters in a drawer at their shared home. They were addressed to him, written in Selena's precise script, detailing her fears that the machinations of fame were pulling her away from the person she loved most. She wrote, "I feel like I'm disappearing into Selena Quintanilla the icon, and I'm losing sight of Chris Perez the man," he recalled, voice wavering. "I never knew she felt that way until after she was gone." Reading those words late at night, he said, felt like being punched by grief all over again. Instead of confiding in family or friends, he burned the letters, partly out of respect, partly out of desperation to protect her privacy. That decision, he confessed, haunted him ever since. Next came the salacious claim that a trusted member of Selena's inner circle, an assistant manager in Q Productions, had leaked those letters to tabloids, hoping to stoke sales and drive narratives of star-crossed love. Perez paused, gaze steady. "I won't name this person yet," he warned. "But believe me, you'll know who it is when you see the documents." He promised to share redacted copies of emails during his upcoming Memoir tour, offering fans undeniable proof of the leak. The hint of tangible evidence sparked renewed excitement. True crime podcasters clamored for interviews, while publishers raced to revise book jacket copy for upcoming Selena biographies. The story had evolved from wistful remembrance to a real-life drama of loyalty and betrayal. Then came the revelation about the music executive. In a clip that felt ripped from a courtroom drama, Perez described meeting a label head in a dimly lit backstage corridor one evening in 1996. The executive, he alleged, offered him a lucrative deal: headline a tribute tour as Selena's widower, capitalizing on fans' lingering grief. The catch? He would have to remain silent about any new details concerning Selena's personal life. He said, "Chris, if you want the world to keep loving Selena, don't rock the foundation," Perez recalled, slamming his hand on the table. Until now, Perez said, he'd honored that unspoken pact. But now, he insisted, loyalty to truth outweighed contractual obligation. "I loved Selena beyond measure," he said, eyes shining with conviction. "But I refused to let her memory become a commodity built on half-truths." That declaration reverberated across fan communities. Reddit threads exploded with hypotheses. Which executive would dare propose such terms? Insiders pointed to a notorious label known for controlling artist narratives in the 1990s. Lawyers speculated that if Perez could prove coercion, the contracts might be voidable even today. Meanwhile, hashtag campaigns like hashtag #FreeChrisPerez trended on Twitter, urging fans to rally behind his quest for transparency. Selena's siblings, who had fiercely protected her legacy for decades, remained silent, neither supporting nor condemning Perez, but refusing to fuel the fire. Their silence was interpreted as tacit disapproval by some and cautious respect by others. As the momentum built, Perez announced he would host in-depth listening parties in 5 U.S. cities, sharing stripped-down versions of studio outtakes, raw vocals, unreleased guitar tracks, and candid commentary on the emotional context behind each song. Attendees would receive exclusive pre-release copies of his memoir's first chapter, titled Unseen Letters. VIP packages included a limited edition vinyl box set, and a signed reproduction of Selena's handwritten lyric sheets. The packages sold out within hours, confirming that Perez still held the power to captivate a global audience. Through it all, Perez insisted his motivation went beyond personal catharsis or commercial gain. He framed this moment as a reckoning with how the music industry and fan culture handle grief. 30 years ago, he said, Selena belonged to everyone. And to everyone, that meant no one. Now, he wanted to restore her voice, unfiltered, unmerchandised, and finally whole. As pre-orders for his documentary and memoir climbed, one fact became indisputable. Chris Perez's long-buried secrets had ignited a conversation about ownership, loss, and the ethics of celebrity memory. And as the world awaited Section 3 of his revelations, the line between myth and truth blurred ever further. As word of Chris Perez's revelations spread, the reaction rippled through Selena's fanbase and the music industry at large. Late-night talk shows devoted entire segments to debating the ethical implications of his leaked letters, while legal experts speculated on whether the non-disclosure agreements he referenced remained enforceable after 3 decades. In a televised panel, a prominent entertainment attorney explained that California law could render certain clauses void if they were deemed unconscionable, especially in cases involving grief and coercion. Social media campaigns sprang up asking fans to share their favorite Selena lyrics beneath #LetHerSpeak, underscoring a collective desire to reclaim her narrative from corporate interests. Meanwhile, Perez's upcoming memoir climbed bestseller pre-order charts, signaling that audiences were hungry for the unfiltered truth. Within Selena's family circle, the response was more guarded. In a rare statement, Abraham Quintanilla acknowledged Perez's right to tell his story, but urged sensitivity toward memories that countless loved ones held dear. Her sister Suzette, who had co-managed Selena's estate for years, released a carefully worded post. Our family honors Chris's grief and the love they shared. We remain committed to preserving Selena's legacy as she would have wanted, through her music and her message. Observers interpreted Suzette's tone as neither endorsement nor opposition. Rather, it conveyed a protective instinct over Selena's public image. The delicate balance of supporting Perez's catharsis while safeguarding Selena's memory highlighted the complexity of untangling personal truth from a cherished cultural icon. In the midst of this emotional maelstrom, Perez embarked on a nostalgia-tinged publicity tour. He made stops at major Tejano radio stations, where hosts greeted him with reverence and tears. On one Miami broadcast, he sat in front of a mural depicting Selena's final performance, describing how he'd once dreamed of writing their names together in lights. Listeners called in with stories of how Selena's music had guided them through loss. Some even shared their own buried letters to departed loved ones. Each anecdote underscored the profound impact of Selena's artistry and deepened empathy for Perez's decision to reveal long-buried secrets. Film festivals provided another stage for Perez's revelations. At the South by Southwest premiere of his documentary, a hush fell over the packed theater as he introduced the first scene. Archival footage of Selena recording "Dreaming of You," contrasting with unseen home video clips of her and Chris dancing barefoot in the kitchen. The audience watched in stunned silence as Perez narrated how, in the months before her death, Selena had begun writing songs that confronted the isolating pressures of stardom. Tracks never released, cached in an old TDK tape he discovered years later. When the screen faded to black, a single spotlight illuminated Perez as he confessed, "I promised to protect her voice. Now I vow to share it." The crowd rose in a standing ovation that lasted minutes, a testament to the power of raw authenticity. Behind the scenes, production meetings brimmed with tension. Top executives debated how to handle potential lawsuits from Q Productions, concerned that revealing sealed documents could trigger litigation. Others worried about the documentary's tone. Should it focus on celebration or expose the shadowy underside of Tejano music's commercialization? Perez insisted on a balanced approach, blending joyous concert footage with stark recollections of grief and betrayal. He enlisted a veteran editor known for crafting nuanced narratives that humanize larger-than-life figures, ensuring that neither sensationalism nor sugarcoating would dominate the final cut. The resulting film felt intimate rather than exploitative, Weaving Perez's personal journey into the broader tapestry of Selena's cultural significance, fan-organized events further highlighted the emotional stakes. In San Antonio, a grassroots Letters to Selena exhibit invited visitors to post their own notes on a wall painted to resemble the Quintanilla home. Perez surprised attendees by appearing unannounced, reading selected letters aloud, and responding with personal anecdotes. One fan's note, "Your love story gave me hope when my marriage fell apart," brought Perez to tears, prompting him to embrace her before finishing the reading. Videos of the moment went viral, and the hashtag Selena Lives On trended worldwide. These grassroots interactions reaffirmed that Perez's revelations were not mere headline fodder, but part of a collective healing process. As the countdown to the memoir's release approached, publishers revealed the book's provocative chapter titles: Ashes of Letters, The Executive's Offer, Echoes in the Studio, and Unbroken Vow. Each title hinted at deeper layers of Selena's last months and Perez's own rebirth as an artist and storyteller. The final chapter, If I Had One More Dance, promised a haunting conclusion that juxtaposed Selena's luminous ascent with Perez's enduring devotion. Excerpts published in the New York Times Magazine teased readers with vivid passages about midnight songwriting sessions and secret lyric revisions that painted Selena as both vulnerable dreamer and savvy businesswoman. Demand for the memoir soared, securing a record-breaking advance and a global marketing blitz spanning billboards in Houston, Mexico City, and Madrid. Through every step, legal debates, festival premieres, fan exhibits, and media tours, Chris Perez has positioned himself not just as a grieving husband, but as a custodian of Selena's forgotten verses and hidden truths. His decision to break 30 years of silence has transformed a personal catharsis into a cultural reckoning, forcing fans and institutions alike to confront the tension between memory and myth. As the world eagerly anticipates Section 4 of Perez's revelations, one certainty remains: the story of Selena Quintanilla and the man who loved her will never be the same again. In the wake of his festival appearances and grassroots events, Chris Perez's revelations sent shockwaves through the music world and straight into the heart of Q Productions. Industry insiders say Selena's family-founded company convened an emergency board meeting within days of the documentary's debut. Executives pored over legal binders, scrambling to assess non-disclosure agreements that Perez claimed bound him, and debating whether to challenge his right to publish private letters and contracts. Sources close to the company described tense phone calls with Abraham Quintanilla, during which he insisted that Selena's image must remain untarnished, even as he acknowledged Perez's right to freedom of speech. Behind closed doors, Q Productions lawyers explored options to seal estate documents, fearing the memoir's explosive revelations chapter could expose proprietary business decisions and inflate public scrutiny of internal finances. Meanwhile, Latinx media outlets exploded with commentary. Journalists at major Spanish-language networks dissected the claims that Selena's final unreleased tracks, now referenced in Perez's memoir, had been locked away to maximize posthumous profits. They contrasted Perez's account of a hush deal with executives against Swelda magazine's archival report from 1995, which hinted at contract renegotiations that spiked royalties by 200% in the months after Selena's death. Community leaders, concerned about cultural erasure, urged a town hall-style webinar to debate the ethics of profiting from tragedy. Selena's fans, many of whom first connected to her through Tejano heritage, grappled with the idea that the business side of her legacy could have overshadowed her artistry for decades. Amid this maelstrom, Perez dropped the most explosive teaser yet. In an appearance on a late-night talk show, he revealed that he'd uncovered sealed deposition transcripts from Selena's murderer's trial. According to Perez, some testimony, never aired or reported, indicated Selena had confided in a close friend about feeling manipulated by management decisions designed to control her image. The friend's recollections, Perez says, corroborate the themes in her letters about losing Chris to the machinery of stardom. Legal analysts warn that filing these transcripts publicly could constitute contempt of court or violate the terms of the trial's protective order. Yet Perez insists on transparency, arguing that the truth of Selena's final months belongs to her fans, not to locked cabinets. His willingness to risk legal fallout earned both praise and concern. Entertainment law professor Marta Delgado commented that Perez's disclosures could reshape celebrity estate law, setting precedents for heirs contesting overly broad NDAs. But she also cautioned, if he crosses certain legal lines, the backlash could cement the very narrative he's trying to dismantle. That potential for self-sabotage sparked heated debates on talk radio, where hosts split between cheering his bravery and warning that the real victims in this drama could be Selena's family. Dragged into public cross-examination. In response, Suzette Quintanilla announced an upcoming biopic produced in partnership with a major Hollywood studio, yet without Perez's involvement. The project's teaser trailer, released on the same day Perez's Memoir hit shelves, showcased sumptuous period costumes and dramatic reenactments of Selena's childhood. Critics accused the biopic of being a counterstrike, an attempt by Q Productions to reclaim narrative control, to reassert the sanitized version of Selena's rise and fall. Fans flooded social media with split-screen memes. On one side, Perez's raw, handwritten letters. On the other, the softly lit biopic mock-up, dubbing it Truth versus Tinsel. The ensuing online feud underscored the schism between personal confession and corporate storytelling. Yet not everyone took sides. Several prominent Latinx artists, including Los Tigres del Norte and Lila Downs, released open letters urging unity, praising both Perez's courage and the family's dedication to celebrating Selena's artistry. They emphasized that Selena's music had always united diverse communities across borders and generations, and that this moment of reckoning, while uncomfortable, could yield a more honest homage. Their consensus: Selena's legacy is too rich to be owned by any one narrative. As Q Productions and Perez prepare for clashes in courtrooms and on global media stages, one undeniable shift has occurred. Selena's story, long curated by managers and marketers, is now under public co-ownership. Fans no longer passively consume her legend. They debate its layers, contest its omissions, and demand authenticity. The spark Chris Perez ignited, by refusing to let sadness be sanitized, has turned Selena's legacy into a living conversation, messy, contested, and truer for it. In the weeks following the biopic's debut and Chris Perez's memoir release, Selena's legacy became the epicenter of a cultural flashpoint. Fans gathered at pop-up exhibits in San Antonio, Houston, and Los Angeles to display original costumes, handwritten lyric sheets, and homemade tribute art. At each event, heated discussions broke out on whether to boycott the new film, attend Perez's public readings, or look beyond the controversy to celebrate her ultimate message of joy and inclusion. Grassroots committees formed on Facebook, lambasting Q Productions for alleged image over substance, while others argued it was possible to honor both Perez's truths and the family's curated narrative. These citizen-led forums underscored that Selena's story belonged to no single gatekeeper, but to millions of devoted followers across generations and cultures. Meanwhile, legal motions filed by Q Productions signaled that the family company was moving to prevent public distribution of Perez's sealed documents. Court filings requested injunctions against unauthorized release of trial transcripts and personal letters, claiming they were protected by decades-old confidentiality agreements. Perez's legal team countered with motions to strike down those clauses as unconscionable, arguing that contracts drafted under duress after Selena's death could not suppress fundamental rights of free speech and historical inquiry. Tombstones in the public record, once sealed, were now reopened to testify about the human cost of fame and control. Lawyers on both sides drafted briefs thick as novellas, while public interest attorneys raised the specter of precedent. If Perez won, heirs of other cultural icons could similarly unlock hidden archives to challenge corporate narratives. Amid this courtroom brinkmanship, Perez remained in the spotlight, but showed no signs of rancor. He continued to host public reading sessions in mid-sized theaters, selecting passages from his memoir that spoke of resilience rather than grievance. At a sold-out event in Chicago, he read an excerpt describing the moment he unearthed Selena's final lyrics, poignant couplets that spoke of faith and freedom, and asked the audience to sing along. As the melody rose, he paused and wiped a tear, inviting fans to transform sorrow into communal celebration. Videos of that moment, crowds harmonizing under golden stage lights, went viral, and hashtags like #SingForSelena trended globally. In these instances, Perez reminded everyone that beyond controversy lay the music itself, her voice alive in every note. Beyond live readings, Perez tapped into the power of digital collectibles. He released a limited run of NFT artwork based on Selena's original stage sketches, hand-drawn designs for concert outfits, album cover concepts, and tour posters, each accompanied by brief audio commentary. Collectors snatched them up, and within 48 hours, the digital gallery sold out. The proceeds funded a new scholarship administered by Selena's estate in collaboration with Perez, aimed at supporting young Latinx artists in music and the visual arts. The initiative drew praise from cultural commentators for bridging old and new economies. Blockchain technology repurposed to empower communities, rather than to commodify tragedy. Simultaneously, Q Productions announced a series of community concerts billed as Celebrating Selena's Spirit, featuring tribute bands and dancers performing syncopated cumbia routines and mariachi medleys. Proceeds were to benefit local music schools, but critics noted the timing as an attempt to reclaim public goodwill. Perez responded with humility. He joined the opening act of the first concert as a surprise guest, performing a short guitar solo before allowing the youth orchestra to take center stage. He declared, "Selena loved to bring people together. Let's make this about her joy." His gesture diffused some tension, earning cautious praise even from Q Productions' executive board. As the media cycle shifted between lawsuits and concerts, cultural scholars weighed in. Articles in academic journals examined how Selena's legacy had become a battleground for debates over gender, race, and the politics of memory. Panel discussions at universities compared Selena's posthumous myth-making to other icons like Tupac Shakur and Amy Winehouse, exploring how families and industries control narratives in the aftermath of tragedy. In these lectures, Perez's revelations served as a case study in disruptive transparency, demonstrating both the cathartic power of truth-telling and the complexities it unleashes. Selena's story had evolved into a dialogue between artist, family, and fans, unearthing truths that redefined her memory. The final act of this saga offers revelations to be unveiled. Ultimately, the unprecedented legal storm between Chris Perez and Q Productions reached a denouement in a closely watched Los Angeles courtroom. After hearings, Judge Marisol Castillo issued a compromise ruling. Sealed letters and trial transcripts could be unsealed after redaction of private third-party details, safeguarding identities of individuals not central to the narrative. This ruling reaffirmed a balance between free expression and privacy rights, setting a legal precedent for heirs contesting posthumous gag orders. Perez emerged victorious but tempered. He pledged to honor this judicial compromise and to publish only those details relentlessly relevant to understanding Selena's final months and her own artistic aspirations. In the cultural realm, Perez's candor inspired an outpouring of tribute albums, symposiums, and initiatives. Ethnomusicologists organized panels exploring Selena's fusion of Tejano, cumbia, and pop, referencing Perez's revelations to demonstrate her lyricism's evolving depth. At universities from Austin to Madrid, students debated how grief and memory weave into musical legacy. Fan collectives launched a digital archive named Selena Sinfonica, cataloging her entire recorded oeuvre alongside Perez's annotated commentary. The era of separated narratives, Perez insisted, had ended. His memoir and documentary would join the family curator's official archives to create a unified, multifaceted testament to Selena's brilliance. Yet the schism between personal and corporate storytelling lingered. While Perez's candid disclosures resonated with fans, some cultural custodians voiced serious concerns revisiting chapters risked overshadowing Selena's exuberant artistry. Critics argued the public airing of private letters might shift focus to tragedy than triumph. In response, Perez emphasized context. He curated readings to highlight Selena's forward-looking lyrics, her hopes for community unity, her dreams of cultural empowerment. He unveiled never-released verses that celebrated heritage and resilience, crafting concerts titled Canciones de Vida, where each song's backstory underscored optimism. Through this balance of revelation and celebration, Perez aimed to honor both truth and joy. Meanwhile, the academic discourse around Selena underwent a renaissance. Musicologists and cultural theorists published essays in journals like Ethnomusicology Forum and Latino Studies, dissecting how Perez's newly unveiled documents reframed her agency as a creative force. Graduate seminars assigned readings from his memoir alongside Selena's original diary entries, inviting students to analyze the tension between market imperatives and artistic impulse. Librarians collaborated with Perez to digitize family archives, handwritten notes, demos, journals, making them accessible for future scholarship. In this emerging field, Selena's story transcended simple biography, evolving into a case study on the politics of memory, grief, and posthumous stewardship. As public fascination persisted, a new generation discovered Selena through controversies Perez stirred. Recently, streaming services reported a 60% spike in her catalog streams, while social platforms buzzed with 30-somethings and teenagers dissecting her lyrics under #LegacyUnlocked. Wide-ranging EDM tracks sampling her vocal hooks climbed dance charts, and ethnographic dance producers incorporated her cumbia rhythms into contemporary performances. Selena's influence rippled from Tex-Mex festivals in San Antonio to underground clubs in Berlin, reaffirming her transcendent cultural reach. Perez's revelations, rather than tarnishing her image, rekindled global appreciation for her artistry, proving that authenticity, however messy, can ignite renewed creative energy. Looking ahead, the saga between Perez and Q Productions illustrates the evolving power dynamics of celebrity estates. No longer can managers unilaterally shape posthumous narratives without facing public scrutiny. Perez's victory has prompted other artists' heirs to revisit legacy contracts and demand transparency, potentially reshaping how music royalties and artistic archives are governed. In Selena's honor, a newly formed Artists' Legacy Coalition announced its formation, a coalition of musicians, estates, and legal scholars dedicated to safeguarding legacies while championing authentic storytelling. Its first initiative will fund free legal clinics for survivors of famous artists, ensuring that memory becomes a fortress of honesty rather than a cage of omission. Above all, Selena's legacy endures in the hearts of those who find solace and inspiration in her music. Chris Perez's revelations did more than satisfy curiosity. They sparked a reckoning that illuminated the unseen costs of stardom and grief. As fans continue to harmonize her lyrics, remix her melodies, and share how Selena changed their lives, her spirit remains unconfined by controversy. The full, nuanced truth has woven an even richer tapestry for a queen whose voice transcends generations. In honoring that truth, Perez and Selena's family have opened a path to authenticity to guide future artists toward creative freedom and compassionate remembrance.